Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. Today is Thursday, August the 20th. Currently in the pre-market, as you can see, the SPY is currently dropping here. So yesterday we were above our previous day highs. We ended up filling the gap towards the downside, only to push back higher and filling the gap that we created here earlier into the week. And as you can see, we're rejecting off that full gap fill and we're pushing towards the downside. And currently in the pre-market, we are underneath our previous day lows. So underneath our previous day lows, we're actually on the higher time frame as well, breaking underneath our key level support currently here in the pre-market. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. ES getting back underneath our key level of support, which is our 7720. So there's a lot of things to kind of talk about coming into market open here. Yesterday, there's a nice couple opportunities towards the upside with some Mag 7, Apple, Netflix, Tesla ended up having a nice push later into the session. Moderna was a name we talked about in the pre-market. That was already up 100%, but that one ended up having some continuation later into the day. With that being said, what's up, everyone? Good morning. What's up, Kelvin, TW? Good morning, P1, J10, Carl, Maria. Good morning, Cody. Good morning, Knight, Sakis. What's up, Bobby? Can you make a video on how to analyze an options trade? Make sure to check out my last YouTube video on my main channel. Actually, I end up posting an options kind of beginner guide. So make sure to watch that one if you haven't already. But that kind of goes through all the basics of options. What's up, Wallace, Lamit? Good morning, Gerald. What's up, Andy, Senna, Edison? Good morning, Deuce, Ron, Z Norris, Leon. Good morning, Andrea. Yeah, hope you guys are doing well. Let me pull up the economic calendar here and then we will get started. Okay, that being said, let's go over the economic calendar. Did I delete the key levels video? No, the key levels video is still up. If you go on to let me go into this. If you go into the Telegram, it's the pinned video on the top. I will post the link in here for you guys as well. So if you guys are interested, I will post the link to I think it's on my second channel, but it's how to draw the key levels. Okay, with that being said, let's pull up the economic calendar, which we have. As for the overnight session, not too much news, higher time frame. Ever since we had that gap down on earlier into the week, we've been pushing towards the downside. At least for today, we do have unemployment in roughly 20 minutes. So we'll see how that impacts the market, not really expecting too much. And then, of course, no red folder news on Friday. So we'll kind of just go over the charts. We'll see if it impacts the market with us dropping currently here in the pre-market. Not really expecting too big of a reaction here with the economic calendar. It does seem like we are selling off pretty aggressively here before the market opens once again. So whenever the markets do have a big move in the overnight session, which currently we're doing, yesterday, even before the market opened, we end up having a nice pop towards the upside. Today, we're having a push towards the downside before the market opens. It does make it for a little bit more of a difficult New York session open. So if we go into the SPY, let's take a look at this from a higher time frame perspective. So currently we're on the daily time frame. And as you can see, the main key technical level that we have marked out is this right here, 768. This would be our double bottom if we want to see continuation towards the upside. But currently, as you can see, we ended up coming back for the gap fill. So yesterday, we filled the gap towards the downside, filled the gap back towards the upside. And now you can see prices starting to push and head lower. So if we go back onto the lower time frames here, now you can see on the hourly time frame, we are breaking underneath this key level support. Yesterday, there was room towards the upside. In this case, it was our gap fill. And once we filled the gap, you can see we're starting to push lower. Currently in the pre-market, we are breaking underneath this 670 this 767 here, essentially our previous day lows along with the low that we created here on Tuesday, and we're having a bigger sell-off coming into market open. Main thing moving forward, if we're on the hourly chart, we just want to see it maintain underneath that 767 for continuation if we want to see some more downside here in the markets. So underneath this level moving forward, we're going to maintain a more bearish stance here in the market. If we break back above or reclaim back above, we can see that push back towards the upside. But right now, we are showing a lot more weakness here in the pre-market. The next key technical level here on this SPY is going to be the area where we broke out from, which in this case is our 760. So be cautious with the markets dropping here now. Potentially, we could see a move down in towards that 760. That's really going to be that next level and that next retest here on the higher time frame. So let's go on to lower time frames, at least for today. We'll mark out this previous day lows, or sorry, this low that we created here from Tuesday, and then we'll drag it over. This is our 767. I'm not sure why I can't say 767, but that's the level that we have coming to market open. If we go on to the ES, on the higher time frames, similar thesis here. We are breaking back underneath this key level here, which is our level of support. You can see it came down yesterday, or sorry, 2 days ago. We reclaimed that level, buyer stepped in, but now currently we're breaking back underneath. So we're breaking back underneath that 77.20, and now the next level that we have is on the daily chart is technically all the way back into this previous all-time highs, along with the area that we broke out from, which is our 76.40 here on the higher time frame. So levels that we can mark out now on the ES is really the area that we broke out from. In this case, it's going to be this 76.40 here on the higher time frames. So ES coming into market open, we're just going to keep an eye out on that previous day lows. Other levels that we have marked out here now as well, we can keep an eye out on that 7,700, maintain underneath this level. We can see continuation towards the downside. Upside today is going to be a little bit more difficult. Yesterday we had our previous day high, so once we got above, we're able to look for a potential long above that previous day highs. Today, look where that previous day highs is, all the way back up into that 772. So if you do want to see any sort of long, it would have to be the reclaim back above our previous day lows, along with our Tuesday lows at a minimum for any sort of push back up into this previous day close area here for this SPY. So let's go on to the QQQ here now. If you go into the hourly time frame, the Qs is actually coming back into our higher time frame level of support. This is really one of the areas that we broke out from. So as you can see here, broke out, came back for the retest, and now you can see we're actually coming back down into the area which we broke out from. In this case, it's our 708. And now you can see the Qs a little bit weaker. Price ended up rejecting off our previous day highs yesterday, and we pushed back down into our 708 here on the higher time frame. So yesterday price opened up right at that previous day highs, rejection, and we end up getting underneath our previous day lows, and we end up having a nice retest only for it to reclaim later into the session. And now you can see currently in the pre-market we are breaking underneath that 716. Do you guys have any issues with the mic? Someone's mentioning in the chat, did the mic go out? If you guys can hear me, can you guys type yes in the chat or no if the mic is not working? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, perfect. Yeah, it must be you, J-Man. If you guys do have any issues with the mic, you guys can always click that refresh button and everything else should be good. But yeah, if we're taking a look at the QQQ here, we are coming into a key level support after gapping down earlier into the week. You can see it was definitely a little bit weaker. Now we want to see if any buyers do want to step in right off that 707. right? If buyers step in off that 707, we can see a potential mean reversion back towards the upside. Long positions today, similar thing to the SPY, we have to reclaim back above our previous day lows at a minimum. So if we want to see upside, we'd have to get back above our previous day lows, preferably back above that 716 for continuation back towards the upside. Right now, with us dropping underneath our previous day lows, we're going to be keeping an eye out for that previous day low potential retest for continuation towards the downside right off the bat. If we take a look at the NQ, we're right into a key technical level here as well. So for the NQ, along with the QQQ, if we go into the daily time frame, right now I'd say we're still technically valid, right? We have this higher low being built, but the one thing about the daily time frame is we have this daily gap. So as you can see, we ended up gapping up, and now we're about to push back towards the downside. We would like to see if buyers do want to step in off of our daily gap chart. So this is the key level that we have marked out. If we break underneath, we could see this potential gap fill back down in towards our 700 here. So that's why this level of support is key. If we don't hold this level of support, then we can see some more continuation down in towards kind of this gap that we have created, which is our 700 key psych level. So if you go into the NQ and we go into the hourly time frame, similar thesis here. What we have marked out is going to be that double bottom, or sorry, that higher low pivot point here, which we can have just marked out right here. Right now, you can see we're coming back down into that level here on the NQ. If buyers can step in, potentially you can see this mean reversion back towards the upside. If we do stay heavy, then we're going to see a push all the way back down into really the area that we broke out from, which is our 29,000 along with our 28,800. So coming into market open here, what are the key technical levels that I have marked out? Just keep an eye out on that previous day lows. If we reject off this level, we're just going to see that continue push straight towards the downside. If we can reclaim, then we can see a potential move back up in towards our previous day close, which in this case is our roughly around that 29,600. Let's go on to the SMH. So the SMH, as you can see yesterday, we ended up rejecting off our previous day highs here as well. So the semiconductors were bullish in the pre-market only to have a rejection and a push straight down in towards our previous day lows. Currently here in the pre-market, this is the area that we broke out from here as well. So we had that nice push, and now we're coming right back towards the downside. In this case, the key levels that we have marked out is going to be that 560. A hold of that 560, potential mean reversion back towards the upside underneath our previous day lows, underneath 560. Next level is going to be all the way back down into that 550 and potentially 540 here on the SMH. This one as well also does have a daily gap. You can see originally we did defend this daily gap, but currently we are inside the daily gap. We could be looking for that full gap fill, which as I mentioned, down into that 540 here on the higher time frames. For taking a look at the IWM, a lot of these ones are eventually not pulling back here as well. IWM not able to get back above our 303. Next level all the way back down into that 298. So that's what we have here on the higher time frames. And now with that being said, let's head on to some tech names that we have coming into market open. So if you guys do have any charts or any tickers you guys would like me to go over here now, you guys can drop them in the chat. If you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate if you guys drop a like and sub. If you guys haven't joined the free daily watch list, that of course is in the description below here as well. Academy, can we trade your techniques with futures, or is it profitable mainly options? If you're trading futures, there's going to be a lot more mean reversions and reversals. So it's a similar thing. You're basing it off of key technical levels, but the main thing is a lot more mean reversion. So I think there's another question underneath as well, which is basically talking about, do you take rejection plays? If yes, the break and retest of some levels after rejection. My video this week is going over price action, or we're going over the different types of setups. So really in this case, let's just say, for example, we have number one, the break and retest, which is a continuation play. There's another one, which is a reclaim setup where it reclaims back above a key level. And then another one is a rejection. So in this case, for the QQQ, or let's say for Tesla, this would be considered a rejection play where price comes up into a key level of resistance. Now you can see price is coming up, rejecting, and we're reversing back towards the downside. So in this case, it's a reversal setup. And that's a setup that you can be looking for if you trade more so futures, or if you trade the indices themselves. I personally like to go for more continuation setups, which you'll see something like Apple, where you have continuation, or Netflix, right? These are the ones that have trending markets. It's a lot easier, in my opinion, to trade a trend than it is to trade a reversal. But there are a bunch of different setups as well. I feel like I've asked you before, boys, what do you think is a sizable account would be when you're first starting out? You only need to trade a few contracts when you're first starting out. The size of the account, I wouldn't say necessarily matters. It's more so how much you're willing to risk. If you're trading around 2 to 3 contracts when you're starting out, that's a good starting point. You really only need, depending of course on what names you play. Some names are a little bit more expensive. I'd say $1,000, maybe a few $1,000 account, only risking a very minimal amount and trading 2 to 3 contracts. Okay, so as you can see here for Tesla, we kind of talked about that mini kind of daily flag pattern forming. The hourly built up a higher low here as well. We do have this daily gap on the charts. If we're looking at Tesla here on the hourly time frame yesterday, nice hold of this higher time frame 335. Once we're able to break above our previous day highs, the next key level is actually all the way back up into that 340, along with that 350 here. So for Tesla, this one's definitely a lot more stronger compared to the Qs. You can see the Qs has been dropping. Tesla end up having a nice push towards the upside. What are the key technical levels that we have marked out here? Now what we have is our previous day highs. So previous day highs touch here, and then we also have that 334. If you want to see some upside, maintain above that 334, continuation, are now above our previous day highs for a pushback towards the upside here as well. Those are the two long scenarios. Above that 350, we can now see continuation back into that daily gap. Tesla, not that interested in some downside. Of course, if you do get underneath that 344, there is room down into that 340. But something like Tesla, not that interested in shorting. There's a bunch of other names that look a little bit better for some downside. All right, let's take a look at AMD. So AMD here now is coming down into that earnings low. So this is a key level here on the higher time frames. You can see touch here, another touch yesterday. Currently trying to break underneath it here in the pre-market. So what we're going to keep an eye on is that break underneath our previous day lows, hold for a move down into that 450 and potentially below here. So coming into market open, let's keep an eye on that previous day lows. Yesterday, AMD, a little bit more weakness down into that 460. Today, if we can break underneath, which we're currently doing in the pre-market, retesting our previous day lows holding, then we can be looking for that push down into that 450 and potentially below here on AMD. If we do reclaim back above, then I'm going to be a little bit more neutral. If we can get back above that pre-market highs, we can see a flip here in the market as well. So above our previous day highs, keep an eye out on a potential flip. If we get back above that pre-market highs, we have room back up into that 476 here on AMD. Let's take a look at NVIDIA. NVIDIA, similar thesis here. We are coming back down into our higher time frame level of support, which happens to be that 216. The next level here on NVIDIA is back down into that 212. So as you can see here, we have multiple touches on the daily chart. If we break underneath this level of support, we can see room down into that previous all-time highs, which happens to be that 212 here on the higher time frames. So for NVIDIA, underneath this level of support, next level all the way back down in towards that 214. Key levels that we have marked out today is going to be that previous day lows. If we break underneath that previous day lows, hold underneath, then we can see that continuation down in towards that 215 and below. If buyers do want to step in, we could see a mini bounce here off that previous day lows. For upside, I would like to see it reclaim that 219 at a minimum for continuation back towards the upside. So for a lot of these tickers today, the reclaim setup is valid above our previous day lows. I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult just because the trend, at least this week, after that gap down has been slightly bearish. So if we do want to see some upside, it's more so just kind of like a mean reversion, mini bounce play. You do have to be cautious because it very much well can come up, reject, and push straight back towards the downside. Let's take a look at Apple here. Apple is one of the strongest tickers in the market. So we talked about that daily gap fill yesterday above our previous day highs here as well. So now for Apple, we are back inside of this daily gap. So as you can see, a lot of consolidation. Tried breaking above originally, but now you can see once we broke back above, nice continuation towards the upside. And now we're inside of this daily gap here on the higher time frames. Breaking above that 316, what would we like to see here now coming into market open? Maintain above that 3 15, that daily gap for continuation towards the upside, which we're currently doing here in the pre-market. Key levels that we can have marked out now is going to be that 315 along with our 319. If we want to see continuation towards the upside above our previous day highs hold for a pushback towards the highs. Another possible scenario is now going to be the hold of our previous day close for that continuation back towards the upside here as well. So there's a couple different opportunities. The main thing is that previous day close hold or now the break above our previous day highs for continuation towards the upside. Let's take a look at Google. Key technical levels that we have marked out on Google is at 340. Higher time frames, we're kind of just now slowly pushing down into that 340. We have not been able to break back above our previous day highs on the daily time frame. So as you can see on the daily chart, every single day, we're slowly pushing back into that level, but we're not able to break back above that previous day highs as of yet. So if you do want to see a reversal, break back above that previous day highs, right now, currently, we're just rejecting every single time, maintaining weakness right now underneath our previous day lows. We can definitely see a push towards the downside here on Google. So key levels that we have marked out, just mark out now. We understand that we're in a higher time frame key area. We can mark out that previous day lows. Other levels that we can have marked out previous day highs. If you want to see a bounce play, bounce off that previous day lows or now longs above our previous day highs. In this case, short-term play underneath our previous day lows. Microsoft came up yesterday and a little bit of rejection here off that 490. You can see this is a key level here, really the area that we broke down from earlier or originally above our previous day highs. You can see this one came up rejected. Now we're pushing back towards the downside. Key level of support, which is our 477. As for Meta, currently we are rejecting here off that 560. So this one broke underneath, filled that daily gap, and now we're seeing a little bit of rejections here off that 560. Let's keep an eye out for Meta. Key level that we have marked out is that previous day highs. Other levels that we have marked out here as well is that 542. Underneath that 542, the break underneath, once again, we can see that previous day lows. Upside for Meta is really only in play if we can get back above our previous day highs hold for continuation back towards upside. Amazon, this one had a nice bounce right off that previous all-time highs level that we talked about. Currently in the pre-market, we are seeing a little bit of sellers stepping in, but you can see nice bounce earlier into the week above our previous day highs. Nice push towards the upside here on Amazon. We did have a pretty strong candle close above our 266, but currently in the pre-market we are coming all the way back down into that 262 here with the QQQ. So key levels 265 along with our 262. Netflix is pushing towards the upside here. One of our key watches coming into this week, reclaiming back above that 76. So nice buyers are stepping in so far. Next levels towards the upside 82 here on the higher time frames. If we go on to the hourly time frame, key levels that we have marked out 79 You can see the break above, nice continuation. Next key levels that we have marked out is going to be our 81. So 81 previous day highs. If you can get above our previous day highs, you can see move up into that 82 here on the higher time frames. All right, let's go on to SpaceX. SpaceX, if we're looking at this on the daily time frame, you can see a couple of rejections still right off this 150. So just draw at this key level. You can see we're unable to get above our 150. If we do break back underneath, we could see it push down in towards that 130, which would be that higher low key area. So for SpaceX, the key technical levels that we have marked out, right now what I have is going to be that 140, very key level. Now we're underneath it here in the pre-market, underneath our previous day lows. We can see room back down into that 130. SpaceX is still, I'd say, bullish on the daily time frame, right? We could come all the way back down into that 130 and build a higher low here on the hourly time frame on the daily chart for a move back towards the upside. If you want to see some intraday longs back above that 140 is going to be key for a pushback higher. All right, with that being said, let's head on to a few other tickers here now. I see a couple names that you guys marked out. But if you guys do have any tickers or any charts you guys would like me to go over, you guys can now drop them in the chat. If you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined the free daily watch list, that of course is in the description below here as well. Can you send the levels on Traders Lab? Yes. Hey, Jack, do you also do order flow and heat map in your strategy? No, I currently do not. Let's take a look at Palantir. Would you prefer a 15-minute order block and a close on the 5-minute to a breakout or a breakdown, or stick to the 5-minute orb and use it to use a 1 minute to enter the trade? So the 15 minutes good if we're in between its previous day's range. I personally prefer the 5-minute if we're above its previous day's range or outside of its previous day's range, right? If you expect something to consolidate coming to market open and you want to be a little bit more patient, then use that 15-minute. If you are outside the range or you have some sort of opening range thesis, then go on to the 5-minute time frame for a continuation towards the upside. Let's go on to the other tickers here now. So Palantir, first things first. Palantir, the key technical levels that we have coming into today is going to be that 176. You can see price came up into that 176 and there's a little bit of rejection there. Right now, all we're doing is just consolidating inside of this range. So inside of this range, a little bit of rejections here. If you want to see some upside above our previous day highs is going to be key for continuation towards upside. If you go on to the hourly chart, if you go into the 15-minute time frame, key technical levels 176, as I mentioned, need to see a break above if you want to see it push up into the top of the range. If we get under, if you want to see some downside on Palantir, I would like it underneath our 170, which happens to be that previous day lows for continuation lower. MU, key levels that we have marked out is just going to be this area, the area that we broke out from. As you can see, that 940 previous level of resistance. Now we want to see this level turn into support. Currently, you can see that first pop is being shorted. We'll see if any buyers potentially step in for a move back towards the upside. Currently, if we do break underneath that previous day lows, then we can see a flip here and the hourly time frame flip bearish. So right now, the higher time frames could very much well use this level as a support for a bounce back towards the upside. But if we do break back underneath, that is going to be our market structure shift for continuation back lower. So for MU and a bunch of these names here today, we are right at a key spot. I would like to see the daily time frame close above this 920. As I mentioned, at least right off the bat, underneath our previous day lows, we can see a push lower. SNDK, similar thing, underneath our previous day lows, continuation towards the downside right off the bat. If you want to see any sort of upside, we would like to see the reclaim back above. INTC a little bit weaker. You can see INTC has been weak as of recent. Underneath our 98 rejections yesterday, and now we're back down into our higher time frame level support 90. Underneath our previous day lows, we have room all the way back towards the downside. Some other names, SK Hynix kind of flirting around right around that IPO open. MRVL had some news yesterday, but pushed up in towards that 250, which is a higher time frame key level that we have marked out. Right now for MRVL, we're going to have to see the break back above that 240 if you want to see any sort of pushback towards the upside. Downside is actually technically in play. If we do reject and get underneath that previous day lows, we can see a push down into that previous day close in that gap fill here on the higher time frames. Some other names, MBIS dropping, had some news on that one. Some names that moved yesterday were some crypto names with Bitcoin rising as well. So crypto ended up having a nice push towards the upside. Just kind of been consolidating on coin, just right off our key level support here. We kind of had this downtrend forming as well. So for coin, we end up having a nice push towards the upside. Now we're above our previous day highs here as well. Key technical levels that we have marked out is just going to be that previous day highs. Maintain above that previous day highs, hold for that push back towards the upside. So this is what we can have marked out, 166. That's also our earnings high as well. If we can maintain above that 166, we can see that continuation back towards the upside. SoFi, a couple other names popping here. Keep an eye out on SoFi. This one's kind of building up an daily flag pattern, has room up in towards that 20. If we can break above our previous day highs, we can see that continue push back towards the upside here. So you'd like to see it now break above this flat top, which we're currently doing. Let's see if we can get that retest for a push back towards the upside. Hood, another name. A little bit of a Bitcoin thesis on Hood as well for a push higher. Let's take a look at mRNA. Does it make sense to short mRNA? For Moderna, the key technical levels that we have marked out, 170. So if we go into the daily time frame, right now, we ended up pushing up in towards our high that we created, which is all the way back from 2024. The next logical level on the higher time frames is really that 200 along with our 220. But as you can see, within one single day, we end up opening up at 120 and pushed up in towards 170 in one single day, right? This is definitely not a name you want to be shorting, at least day number 2. Right, day number 2, you can expect a little bit more probably consolidation. If we do get back above that 170, that's going to be key for a pushback towards the upside. So for today, you can see a nice push up in the after hours. Right now, we're kind of consolidating here. More than likely not. Moderna is probably going to consolidate today. It can come up, kind of reject off our previous day highs. The best case scenario is if we form an inside bar day. Let's say today's range is in between its previous day's range, right? That would set up for, right, a day 3 or day 4 continuation back towards the upside. So today you could look for maybe a mini scalp short towards the downside, right? A rejection here off our previous day highs, right? And a potential rejection. And you look for a mean reversion back towards the downside. But I'd probably just be a little bit more hands off. You can look for a couple scalps intraday. And then we're going to be waiting for it to consolidate. And once it breaks back above that 170, that's going to push it back up into that next leg, which would be 190 plus that 200 here on the higher time frames. Other levels that we have marked out today, it's just going to be kind of the area that we broke out from. I'm going to mark out kind of this pre-market level from yesterday, or 143. As I mentioned, for Moderna, the main level is just going to be that 170 here on the higher time frames. If we can reclaim back above, then you can look for some sort of reclaim thesis for a push back up and towards your pre-market highs. But usually day 2, after a big move like this, don't expect day 2 to be as crazy as day number 1. Usually we'll consolidate and then we'll just have continuation either tomorrow or later next week. We'll have that next leg towards the upside. Okay, with that being said, let's see. Would you take a long position if it presents itself today in the Qs while it's dropping, or would you wait for the Qs to reverse before considering, unless it has a lot of relative strength on something like Apple or Netflix, right? Whenever the Qs is dropping and you're looking to long an individual name, it does make it a little bit more difficult. The best case is when the Qs is trending in your direction as well. So normally I will be just a little bit more patient, or I'll take it on lighter size just because I don't have as much confidence and conviction. Could you do a video with the 5-minute on the 1-minute side by price action for entry, trade, and exit? Usually if we have that 5-minute marked out, then we'll go on to the 1-minute time frame. I guess that you're talking about having the two charts side by side. I can definitely do that if you're interested. All right, with that being said, let's go into the game plan once more coming into today. So right now we're underneath our previous day lows. We are at a key level of support. Whenever we do have these big moves in the pre-market, as I mentioned, it does make it a little bit more difficult for a New York session open, but I'm just going to keep an eye out on that previous day lows today, at least right off the bat. Game plan underneath our previous day lows, rejection, continuation lower. If we can reclaim, then we can be looking for a flip back towards the upside. Not really my preferred scenario would be this reclaim setup, but that is something that is in play. For the SPY, since we are breaking underneath our higher time frame level of support, I'm going to keep an eye out on that retest coming to market open for a continued push lower. If we reclaim back above, then we can see a push up in towards that 770. SMH for the semis, I'd like to see it underneath our previous day lows, rejection for a push towards the downside. What are some of my main watches coming into market open? AMD underneath our previous day lows for continuation lower. Nvidia, we'll keep an eye out underneath our previous day lows for continuation lower here as well. So there's a couple names we can keep an eye out for downside. Tesla, I'm more neutral on this one. I'm not that interested in shorts. If you do get underneath, we're going to essentially be trading in between its previous day's range. So probably going to be a little bit more hands off on Tesla today. I do like Apple here above our previous day highs, 319 for continuation, or the bounce off our 315. As for the rest of the tickers, we do also have Netflix as well above our previous day highs. That you can see continuation. A name that we can be looking for a push lower is going to be SpaceX. This one underneath that 140, underneath our previous day lows, we can see a potential mean reversion back towards the downside. As for a few other names, we're going to keep an eye out on MU right off our previous day lows, the reaction that we have off this level. SNDK, similar thesis. 1580 is going to be key. INTC right at our previous day lows here as well. So a lot of these names coming into market open, we are currently right at our previous day lows. So we'll keep an eye out on those ones. For some upside, the names to keep an eye out for are a couple Bitcoin names, since Bitcoin is moving nicely in the after hours. So keep an eye out on Bitcoin, or in this case, coin above our previous day highs for a potential move back towards upside. But yeah, with that being said, today, don't come into the markets overly biased, right? Right now, we are leaning slightly bearish, but if buyers do want to step in right off the bat, right, then we're going to be a little bit more cautious coming into market open. So that being said, that's going to be it for me today. Just be open to playing both sides today. Wait for that first kind of 10 to 15 minutes to develop. Look for the reaction that we have off our previous day lows. That's going to be key this morning. Yeah, with that being said, I'm going to call it a session here. Hopefully you guys did enjoy that. If you did, appreciate if you guys drop a like and sub, and I will see you guys all tomorrow. All right, take care, everyone. Peace.